thousands of women have been detained for dressing un-Islamically. Like this woman screaming as she's pushed into a police car.
The honor system in Muslim-majority societies is really the basis of a lot of harm that is perpetuated against women.
It's systematic, institutionalized misogyny.
Well, that was a clip from Honor Diaries, a film that aims to expose the practice of honor violence experienced by some Muslim women. And the film has come under attack for its exposure from a variety of critics, including Linda Sarsour. She's a New York City political activist, community organizer, who has been railing against this film and some of the women who appear in it for weeks. And Sarsour's connections go beyond the Big Apple. We have discovered that she's well known in Washington, was even named a, quote, champion of change by the White House back in 2011. In fact, 2 weeks ago, she couldn't come on the show. She was meeting with Nancy Pelosi. Andrew McCarthy is a National Review contributing editor and a policy fellow. Andy, so this woman, Linda Sarsour, is tied to the administration to some extent. She's been recognized by them, praised by them, working with Nancy Pelosi on some items. And yet she can't stand this film, apparently, that means to call attention to the plight of Muslim women. What's the deal?
Well, the deal is that she's in league with other Islamic supremacist thinkers who think that anything that shines a light on this is something that we shouldn't see. And she's been, from what I can detect, she's been really rabidly attacking anyone who's connected with the film.
Don't they look at somebody's bio, somebody like this, you know, before they give them the Champion of Change award and put them on the White House website? Because her profile is still up there at whitehouse.gov.
Right.
Even after she's come out and started ripping on this film, which means to protect women who are Muslim and being subjected to these treatments. It's still up there. They're still praising her. And not only that, but just last month, she sent out a tweet objecting to the people who are behind this film, and her tweet reads as follows: how many times do we have to tell white women that we do not need to be saved by them? Is there code language I need to use to get through?
Right, like white women, I guess, like Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who is the executive producer of the film, a Somali black woman from Africa, very definitely not a white woman, but someone who actually is a champion of change, if what we're talking about is reform and democracy, real democracy, not Sharia-like democracy, and women's rights.
We had a debate on the program last week where Brooke Goldstein argued against a woman from CARE Chicago.
Right.
And Brooke suggested, look, CARE, which has been the one pushing to get this film shut down, is basically a front for Muslim Brotherhood type folks. And the woman from CARE Chicago said that's not true. And she said they're basically a civil rights organization for Muslims. They have legitimate objections to this film because the filmmakers are Islamophobic.
Right. CARE was established by the Muslim Brotherhood. It actually grew out of a meeting in 1993 in Philadelphia among Hamas activists who were confronted with the problem of how do we support Hamas without anyone really recognizing that we're supporting Hamas? How do we move the agenda without getting ourselves in trouble with the United States? This was all in the context of Clinton trying to strike a peace deal between Israel and the Palestinians. That's the origin of CARE. And what the Muslim Brotherhood, these guys go to school on us a lot more than we go to school on them. What they decided they needed was an organization that had media savvy and some legal background that could style itself as a civil rights organization, because in America, if you call anything civil rights, you get an audience. And they were actually fabulously successful for a long time doing it. I think until they were identified as an unindicted co-conspirator in a Hamas financing trial that was known as the Holy Land Foundation case, they had a pretty good run of pulling off this.
Well, you could argue they're still having a good run because they're getting this film canceled or postponed at several university colleges. And you document in your piece on NRO that there's this group called the IIT that gives money to CARE. That group, IIT, believes in some of the things that are outlined in this movie.
Right. Well, the IIT is the International Institute of Islamic Thought. And it's another Muslim Brotherhood spin-off. It's actually a Muslim Brotherhood think tank in the United States. And they are really academics who are strongly behind this particular interpretation of Sharia. And I would argue that this interpretation of Sharia actually licenses all of the misogynistic practices that the film actually covers. Now, if you watch the film, not everybody would agree with that. Some say that there is a Sharia basis for this. Others say it's a cultural thing. People point out that, for example, female genital mutilation was something that was going on before there was an Islam. It seems to be a practice that was adopted rather than developed by Islam. You can argue all of those things, but I think it's important for people to see the film and see these issues spotlighted, because until you shine a light on this sort of stuff, you can't stop it from happening.
She couldn't tell me what about the film she didn't like. She just kept going after the makers of the film, suggesting they're Islamophobic, and yet they've been successful in getting this thing shut down, or at a minimum kicked off for now on several campuses.
Yeah, this is not a conservative film. It's not a white women film. In many ways, it's progressive activists behind it, but people should watch it, make up their own minds.
Good to see you.